engage with that. And I know I used the Holocaust as an example, as a precedent for myself, because I have a personal connection to it. But I thought it was really powerful how the Holocaust exists in a condition that people can, the descending communities and descending families have already reappropriated, recapitulated, reclaimed these sites of tragedy, the concentration camps themselves as sites for remembrance. And so that's kind of become, I don't want to say resolved, because I don't think any of these conditions are ever really resolved, but it's headed in an enormous direction towards the positive. It's been reclaimed. And so I think I know I've struggled with the time that needs to pass between the incident itself and then revisiting it. I don't think that gets exactly at your question.
No, it's more tacking on what you mentioned earlier of thinking about the architecture that houses the people, the family that goes there and takes some time.
Sure.
And it's another mass, but it's a light mass.
Right.
It's a different type of relationship.
It's definitely a different. I mean,
and the only reason why I brought it up is because you
right, and it's definitely a component, and especially I think that's one of the things that Eric stressed most in our meetings was just how desperate these families are and how committed they are to waiting by the grave, and as of now they're so desperate that they'll just stand there, and so why not create a space for them that's more comforting, but also a space where they can contribute, and they bring items to the site. This was the shirt of someone I lost, this is the dental record, there are tangible items that need to be housed, and I didn't get to the point of specifically designing what those were, but I tried to reference them and at least allot a space programmatically for where they could be placed, and sort of distance enough where it's not too traumatic, if you don't necessarily want to revisit that trauma, but close enough where they can still feel engaged and as if they're able to contribute. So I haven't necessarily designed something concrete or really continual, but I think it's part of the system of the temporality of the tents and the tools and everything.
I can't add. I mean, I can't say how touching it is.
I'm asking you a question.
I think the layering of the process in itself is also, and listen, I'm not necessarily looking for any more resolution. I find that so much of the resolution is already clear. That maybe the articulation that we're used to looking for or finding may not be so necessary. So, in some ways, I almost just perceive these as beach. I'm not looking for windows, I'm not looking for ramps, I'm not looking for ADA. I think I can inhabit the emotional space and the cultural and political space and listen to all these aspects. I think the quality of architecture may not be just, we don't need to look for it as a details for me anyway.
Emily, I think what's really important is that you stop short of the statement, but you say that monuments are futile. There's a futility in the monument in that we aren't looking for the objectification of an event, and it's important that maybe it's more architectural because it looks for space. It's more about the process of the space, and it seems it's weird to be saying this because I'm really a formalist. I mean, I love form, and it's not that I need that for closure.
I'm all about
but no, what I'm saying is the form of this is about the invisible and the memory of space, and it's what we live for. It's not the thing that holds the space; it's the space itself. And so, it also doesn't overly romanticize the difficulty of death. I mean, there's something really beautiful about just letting it come to you, and it's hard. It's an extremely difficult thing to do for a thesis because we want to design something.
I've had my insecurities in the past few weeks.
I know. You know me. I mean,
I agree.
So it's really heroic in a sense. And I think it's critical that you did the 5 sites, because we can subliminally make contact with all of our emotions and all of our tactile senses and everything through the 5, rather than say it's not the one. It's not about this war, that country. It's a human condition. And architecture is about the human condition, not about that religion, this religion, or that government. So I think it's really beautiful that it's so philosophical, and it's so hard to stay to it like that when it's.
And it's interesting because I've been struggling with this as I've seen, because I guess I'm so detail oriented, but that I find that there is a goodness about the fact that you almost have done this as a proto edition and not falling into trying to really design it and just give, in a sense, a hint of this. And perhaps maybe why subconsciously I'm pro to it is because as obviously someone that comes from a background that lived a very similar experience, right, as a Chilean, it always brings to my mind that in the 80s there was this wall around Pablo Neruda's house in which many people we knew had disappeared and been tortured, but there was no evidence of where they were. And this wall was used as a manifestation of that condition of describing through words, obviously as Pablo Neruda's literature, through words, the feelings. And the fact that it was such a neutral, blank condition is what allowed for that expression of individuality. So I think that in that sense, if anything, would be to continue to carve a bit more in the proto-condition of, for example, a subtractive method that's larger and contains space vis-a-vis the individual, and where these neutral boundaries could allow for these moves.
And sort of to respond to that, I have sort of considered this in a certain degree in that within the columbarium are these little enclaves for people to leave things, and of the identified and the non-identified. There are some that will never be identified, and so they have to be acknowledged in sort of this presence of the absence and the mass and the collective. But some of them are fortunately able to, and in that case they can leave things. The detail I brought here is of these little encasings that could be cast alongside these extra headstones, and so people can leave those items, because Eric talked extensively about how the families would bring hairbrushes for DNA samples. And they found a photo alongside this body, and that helped them identify or not identified, but it's still a personal connection. And I mean, I'm sure everyone here knows about how Vietnam is, how extensive the collection is of the items that people have brought, either flowers or this was my grandfather's handkerchief, and I want to leave it here with him. And so there is this secondary system of a collection of tangible items at these sites. And so I've tried to consider and accommodate that as well.
One scale that I was investigating further is actually a larger scale of how modern life, where you have the card for you. Put your card, you lead your daily lives and your deadlines or your and your gathering. And the processional aspect of within is so convincing. But I think there's a further procession that I would like to know more about, because you are taking a very tiny little bite out of a huge burial site, and within the context of an entire country, an entire region, entire political, So I think it'd be really interesting, because China and where I come from, Korea, burial sites, they're these field conditions, but in the real sense, and the layering of the perspectives and movements is rich, very rich in progression.
And if you were to develop that more, especially, for example, for one site, in the first one you showed us, there are an enormous amount of tailings that have been generated by that. And so then there's a funny question of is that just dirt, or is it something more than dirt? And so how that's disposed and how it forms a part of a broader landscape of progression to the site could be something that you could explore.
Well, there's probably many theoretical underpinnings here, but one that Emily and I talked about an awful lot, it comes out of our own public health school here. It's called social control theory by Len Sykes, who's a professor. Social control theory, which has been empirically proven, is pretty well accepted. The people who are in control of their lives have better health outcomes. And what you see with the families here is usually there's police tape, yellow police tape. They're standing outside. All of this period, they've never been able to get information about their loved ones. And they're living in this world of hope and denial. But here's this team professionally doing the exhumation.